Topic: The Miracle by Femi Rafi. One Sunday, we hired a coach and all of us, including Asma and Usma, who were Malku's sister, and her brothers, aunts, and uncles, snuggled into the coach. We took a left turn from site area onto the Hub River Road, and our fascinating journey started. It was a long, winding road with rocky hills on either side. The journey seemed endless until we finally arrived at manghopir. It was a small village inhabited by Makranis, who were selling dates and mats made from leaves of date trees. With awe, we watched the green dome of the shrine of Pir Mango. There were long and wide staircases leading up to the front door of the tomb, and the most fascinating thing was that small wooden cradles were hanging on each step. I discovered that those couples who wanted children would hang these cradles and pray through Pir Mango that God would bless them with a child. Anisa took out a small cradle from one of the bags she was carrying and hung it on the string of one of the steps. Malku and her mother climbed up those stairs while the rest of us went to see the crocodiles. We went up to the wall and looked below. There were about 100 crocodiles there. They gave me the creeps. Some were really huge, some were babies, and some looked old and unable to move. A few of them had their mouths open, showing their pale yellow teeth. I think it was their feeding time because only one man, the keeper of the crocodiles, went up to the edge of the pond, and as soon as he arrived, all the crocodiles started moving towards him. It was quite a sight, slimy green water splashing everywhere, and they made such a terrible and frightening noise that I wanted to move away. But Asma held my hand tightly. The keeper had a bucket full of large pieces of meat. The crocodiles seemed hungry and were snapping at each other, but no one moved towards the meat which the keeper had kept at the end of a long stick. Soon there were ripples in the pond. All the crocodile became still, and a very large crocodile appeared. The rest of the crocodiles moved away to give him away. The large one had a smear of red color on his forehead. He was known as Moor Mubarak, the king of the crocodiles. The keeper fed him first, and after he had eaten, the other crocodiles began their feast. It was getting late, so we moved towards the hot springs of sulphur. The place near the hot springs seemed quite dirty and unhygienic, so we didn't feel like staying there very long. It is said that these springs have medicinal qualities, and people with skin disease often bathe there to cure themselves. It was soon Maghrib time, and we prepared to return. Malku seemed lost and withdrawn, and sat quietly all the way home, and I kept wondering what had happened to her. That night, I couldn't sleep thinking about Malku and her husband, and her Cinderella like from rags to riches life. Malku was my sister's friend. When I first became aware of her, she was about 15 and I was about 8, and I thought she was the most beautiful girl on earth. Malku was very nice to me. She would often pinch my cheeks with affection and ask me about school and studies. I felt nice when she gave me so much attention. But I still remember it was a Friday. We were back early from school when we heard the adults whispering the Gullu Bhai, Malku's father, had been arrested. The police had come to their home and handcuffed him and taken him away to prison. My Abbu, who had always kept to himself, told Ammi to be kind to Malku as her family was going through a bad time. Since then, Malku had become a regular guest at our home for lunch, dinner, and tea. Soon we heard that Gullu Bhai was back and had plenty of money to spare. Malku started donning new clothes, plenty of artificial jewelry, and new shoes. After intermediate, my sister enrolled into Dow Medical College and got busy in her studies and did not have much time for Malku, who had also cleared intermediate and was looking for a job. Her father had disappeared again. I believe he was in some kind of illegal business and was often in and out of prison. Malku was left to fend for her younger brothers and sisters. Her first job was that of a telephone operator at a large firm, where many men were mesmerized by her beauty and wanted to marry her, but would leave her when Malku's father would approach them. asking for money, because being a gambler he was always in debt. Whenever Malku's father's reputation reached her office, she would have to leave her job and look for another. And so, poor Malku left one job after another. While she was working as PICIC Bank, she met her heartthrob, Saeed, an industrialist from Lahore, extremely elegant, good looking, very rich, and belonging to a very respectable Punjabi family. It was a whirlwind affair, and just 4 days later, Saeed and Malku got married. Saeed was in too much of a hurry to get married. His family arrived from Lahore. I saw rich elegance from close quarters, Banarasi saris, expensive jewelry, and a high and mighty attitude. After the nikah, Malku left with her husband in their beautiful expensive car. Many people predicted that this marriage would not last long. Saeed would leave her. Rich people have their own way of having fun. But seeing them happy together, we were all proved wrong. Little did we know that although for us the criterion for happiness was money, but was Malku really happy? I came to know about it when my sister returned from Nigeria a year later. My father had died and we were in a dire financial crisis. My sister, after completing her MBBS, had got a job in Nigeria and I had completed my intermediate. My sister told me a strange and unbelievable story about Malku. Malku reached Lahore the same night she was married. The next day she noticed that people came from far and wide just to see her. They looked at her in a strange way. A few of them giggled, hiding their faces behind their dupattas, and the whole day she wondered why. What was wrong? Saeed ignored her questions. Finally, night came and they were alone in their room, and Saeed told Malku his secret. For the first 9 years of his life, he was brought up like a girl, wearing girl's clothes, and considered himself a girl. Then it was discovered that he was a boy. Poor Saeed lived with this pain for years. No one in Lahore would marry him, since his family were well-known industrialists. Wherever they sent the rishta, the girl-boy issue would come up. Malku was stunned, aghast. She had felt she had been cheated. She was disgusted and cried throughout the night. All this time Saeed begged her that he loved her and would keep her happy. He would provide all the comforts of life for her and her family, and even provide a job for Hashim, Malku's brother. He promised that he would provide a good dowry for her sister Najma. Saeed asked her to think it over, and if she still wanted to go back to Karachi, he would let her go. After having cried all night, sanity prevailed in the early hours of dawn. She started thinking about her family. If she went back home, it might become difficult for her other sisters to get married, divorce being a taboo in her family. Then she thought of her father, a drunkard and a gambler who had made life hell for everyone. No, it was not possible for her to go back home, and so she decided to keep up the pretense of marriage. But for how long? She was only 22, whereas Saeed was 33. She became the butt of everyone's jokes. The men in the family made passes at her, trying to corner her, and at times it was difficult to ward them off and resist them. Moreover, living in that aristocratic home was difficult. How to dress in a sophisticated way, how to greet guests, what topics of conversation to avoid, which fork and spoon to use, not to slap her thighs while laughing, when she found anything funny, and most of all, not to say de tali while talking. Life was becoming unbearably stressful, and then she suffered a massive nervous breakdown. She came to Karachi. Malku's family were not very educated and thought that either she was possessed by a jinn or that somebody had cast an evil eye on her. Anisa thought that if Malku had a child, she would be well and happy. Since Anisa had placed a cradle at manghopir's shrine, she was sure that Malku would now conceive and would be in a better frame of mind. But Malku's condition became worse. She was now withdrawn and just stared into space. Anisa finally took Malku to see a doctor. After 6 weeks, Malku was completely cured. Soon after that, Saeed and Malku went on a holiday to Switzerland and Malku disappeared from our lives. She returned to Karachi after 4 months with the news that she was pregnant through artificial insemination. That's what my sister told me later. She was glowing with happiness and looked even prettier. When Malku's daughter Alishba was born, Anisa's happiness knew no bounds. She distributed gulab jamun in the entire neighborhood, including Chacha Alim, who owned a grocery shop at the corner, the dhobi, and even the sweeper. She went to place a chadar of flowers at manghopir and even gave 2 kilograms of meat to the crocodiles. She was convinced that the miracle happened due to Pir Mango's prayers.